Next on HBO.
Yeah, new movie every Saturday night. A police officer gets the getaway driver for a other league. Clint Eastwood stars in Bloodwork.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Police officer gets the getaway driver for a other league and investigate the facts of surrounding. Clint Eastwood stars in Bloodwork.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO. A secret agent has to pull some death-defying stunts while trying to prove his innocence. Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. The military league has proved his innocence, and desperately, Ashley Judd stars in High Crimes.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The soldier has proved his innocence, and desperately before the real villain gets caught, Ashley Judd stars in High Crimes.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
When the trial begins after the soldier has proved his innocence, and desperately, Ashley Judd and Morgan Freeman star in High Crimes.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The former lawyer has proved his innocence, and desperately before the real villain gets caught, Morgan Freeman stars in High Crimes.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Most of best boxing and taking down for a stand down. And here's what happens into the ring stands up to the night. HBO Boxing After Dark.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
It's the ultimate variety show. Edgy interviews, hot musical acts, and plenty of no-holds-barred comedy. The Chris Rock Show.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
An insurance salesman witnesses the death of an ex-con before he inexplicably bound to identity. Jeff Goldblum stars in Auggie Rose.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO. Get an insider's view at the new action-packed Samuel L. Jackson police drama co-starring Colin Farrell. HBO First Look, S.W.A.T. Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Ruby Romaine is a Hollywood artist who keeps the celebrities in this whole time. HBO comedy special. Tracy Ullman and the Trailer Tales.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
This legendary boxing had been taking over the spots. HBO Sports presents Legendary Nights, the tale of De La Hoya to Trinidad.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A single woman has the member of a large, loud, intrusive Greek with a handsome young manner. Nia Bartolos stars in My Fat Greek Wedding.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. The Apes becomes upstanding of the Wild of the Kingdom. Mark Wahlberg stars in Planet of the Apes.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. 100 Miles of Apes becomes upstanding of the Wild of the Kingdom. Mark Wahlberg, Planet of the Apes.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The Apes becomes upstanding of the Wild of the Kingdom of this lockdown island. Mark Wahlberg stars in Planet of the Apes.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The Apes becomes upstanding of the Wild of the Kingdom of this lockdown island and discovers to land. Mark Wahlberg, Planet of the Apes.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Charlie Sheen is an astronomer, and he goes in the radio station, and he knew of the living live alien road trip, The Arrival.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
An astronomer discovers a radio transmission that originated into Original Moon. Charlie Sheen stars in The Arrival.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Go behind the scenes of the NFL sports comedy film and starring Keanu Reeves and Gene Hackman, the making of The Replacements.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The footballers get the foot down of the touchdown to Professional Football League. Keanu Reeves and Gene Hackman, The Replacements.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Warren Beatty is the intelligent police detective, sporting a yellow overcoat hold that organized crime. Al Pacino and Madonna, Dick Tracy.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
And general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, who is determined to integrate for other who could try, Blair Underwood, the HBO original movie, Soul of the Game.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
An unauthorized creature is struggling to create his silent classic. John Malkovich and Willem Dafoe star in Shadow of the Vampire.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
And former DEA officer terrible shootout murder and receives a message for help from his whereabouts for an unprecedented Cyborg Cop.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Angelina Jolie keeping her faith, and it takes more an opportunity for a job she always dreamed of long sent her to a long day, life or something like it.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A horse believes that he becoming is born to a herd of wild horses, featuring the voice of Matt Damon, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO. And focused workaholic man and a charming woman takes out for a warming date. Kim Basinger and Bruce Willis blind date. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
Go behind the scenes of the buddy sister comedy of the rock band and starring Goldie Hawn and Susan Sarandon. HBO First Look, The Banger Sisters.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Henry Winkler, Michael Keaton, and Shelley Long star in this dark night comedy of this national of the free-spirited entrepreneur road ride of the financial night shift.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A tackle footballer touches the foot downer after nickname fielding match after Forrest went downhill. Scott Bakula, Necessary Roughness.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Make a plan for everything but between to making $1 million many non-essential parts but cannot come close. The first $20 million is always the hardest.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. The sharp secret agents don't break a sweat and taking out the new alien threat. Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith star in Men in Black 2.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO. The sharp-dressed secret agents don't even break a sweat as they take on a new alien threat. Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith star in Men in Black 2. Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Two team-up partners switch the places to headed by assigned to see that two bad gangsters, Jay Leno and Pat Morita. Collision course.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Of behind of documentary of this in U.S. history of the Detroit Tigers. A city on fire. The story of the '68 Detroit Tigers.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The unauthorized once powerful general becomes a blade is enraged when he is passed over. Russell Crowe stars in Gladiator.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A Pokemon begins when a powerful storm beaches out of the Anaxan ancient legend. Pokemon the movie. 2000.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
An 11-year-old boy has the illness of this thereafter. Everybody learns about his condition. Blood Brothers, the Joey DiPaolo story.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The chickens must stop the evil woman from turning them into chicken pies. The voices of Julia Sawalha and Mel Gibson. Chicken Run.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The chickens must stop the evil woman from turning them into chicken pies. The voices of Julia Sawalha and Mel Gibson. Chicken Run.
Next on HBO.